My niece's voices can't be heard, but mine can. My nieces, for the past 2.5 years, have been abused by their stepmother. This is their real mother. Her name is Elizabeth Janelle Bowling McCall. This is my sister who passed away March 23rd, 2020. Her husband started dating within months after my sister's death, got remarried within a year to a child abuser. This woman started abusing my nieces almost immediately after her and my brother-in-law were married. After abuse was found out here in the state of Alaska, they decided to relocate to the state of Kentucky where she could isolate her victims. Once DHS was called there, they moved to the state of Arkansas to be near his parents and escape accusations of abuse. A church was called DHS in Arkansas reporting neglect, and yet again they decided to state hop back to Alaska. Here in the state of Alaska, we have a statute regarding the discipline of children. This is Alaska Statute 11.81.430. When and to the extent reasonably necessary and appropriate to promote the welfare of a child or incompetent person, a parent, guardian, or other person entrusted with the care of a child, the care and supervision of a child or incompetent person may use reasonable and appropriate non-deadly force upon that child or incompetent person. So basically, you're allowed to beat your children as long as you don't kill them. My question is, does dragging a small child down 2 flights of stairs by their arm, dragging them like a rag doll, with them screaming out, "You're hurting me, you're hurting me, you're hurting my arm," with multiple witnesses, qualified as necessary and appropriate to promote the welfare of a child? What about slapping the child to the point of leaving a mark on their face or legs? What about pulling them across the front yard by their hair to the point of pulling their hair out? What about slamming a 5-year-old child's head into the bathroom wall? What about yelling, abusing, and belittling a child to the point of causing them to get PTSD, anxiety disorder, and depression? Are all those necessary and appropriate to promote the welfare of a child? I don't think so. Is it okay for a step-parent to inflict such atrocities, leaving emotional and psychological scars on their stepchildren and their own children? Is that okay? According to the statute, it is, just as long as you don't kill the kid. Although depression, anxiety, and PTSD do kill. They do. It seems Alaska wildlife are more protected than its children. You can't go out and hunt a moose or a fish during off-season, and you have to have a license to hunt, period. Otherwise, you are fined and penalized. But you don't have to have a license to parent, which you should. We notified OCS about all the abuse, the hair pulling, the slapping, the repeat abuser had caused to these children with multiple witnesses. I'm talking like 8 witnesses. OCS failed to receive all the evidence, the affidavits, the evidence from DHS in Kentucky and the state of Arkansas before making a premature conclusion that it was safe for the children to return to their abuser. And my mother and I, the grandmother, maternal grandmother, went to domestic court, and we did get a temporary protective order. But once the next court date was set, we went, and we had an attorney. We had all the evidence set before the judge. But OCS decided to make a premature conclusion that it was safe, although they hadn't completed the report yet, it was safe for the children to return to their abuser. So my nieces were returned to abusive home. I find it odd that a stepmother here in the state of Alaska has more right to beat my nieces, to abuse my nieces and her own kids, but as the only surviving full sibling of my sister Elizabeth, I don't have the right to seek visitation. I don't have the right to protect them, evidently. But she's allowed to just go around Waltham whenever she wants. It makes sense to me now why our nation isn't reaching its true potential, because we're not protecting our most vital, our most important resource, our children. We're more protective over a tree, over moose, over bear, over fish than we are my nieces. And that's something I don't understand. So I'm asking our state senators, Lisa Murkowski and Mark Begich, our congressman, Don Young, our attorney general, who's ever willing is willing to listen. This statute, this Alaska statute, that basically you're allowed to harm a child, a grown adult is allowed to harm a child. We have the strength times 10 of a child, and we're allowed to harm them just as long as we don't kill them. That's not okay, and this statute needs to change. It needs to change now, before more children are hurt, before more families are scarred permanently because of the abuse. And what's worse than that is their father protecting the abuser over his children. And come to find out, he responded to mine and Elizabeth's half-sister that he's between a rock and a hard place because he has a daughter with this abuser that he doesn't want to give up, which he wouldn't have to give up. With all this evidence, he would be able to leave this woman and not have to pay child support, get full custody over this kid. But he's willing to sacrifice his two oldest daughters for the sake of an abuser. I don't get it. I honestly don't. And I'd like to say to all the people out there protecting the girl's father, by doing that, you're also protecting the abuser who's abusing your nieces, your granddaughters, and you need to come forward and report her. And to her family, who decided to witness on her behalf that she's a good person, that she's a good mother, and that she may be stern, but it's okay. You're not okay. Seriously. That woman needs a psych eval. So America, Alaska, you need to stand up for these kids. My nieces, anyone else's children that are being abused, if you see something, report it. Not that it'll make much of a difference, evidently, but you still need to report it. My nieces are being harmed. And I'd like to say to Livy and Gabby, Nana's doing everything she can to protect you. And I'm sorry that you had to go back to an abusive home. And I'm sorry that your voice wasn't heard, that your mother's voice wasn't heard. But Nana's voice will be heard. I promise you that.